Hi everybody. So my research question is how movies portrayed teens through the decades. And I'm definitely starting with the 1970s just because the big thing in the 1970s was bullying, and that was definitely showed through in trope in their movie tropes. So the biggest one that I'm going to use, the biggest movie that I'm going to use for that is going to be Carrie, just because A, it was the #1 grossing film at the time, and B, it had a lot to do with bullying and kind of the effects on this one student, and also growing up in a very religious and strict household, kind of just showing the progress through the bullying in the movie. For the 1980s, I'm going to do Friday the 13th, just because it really shows the big social problem with teens with premarital sex and drugs. Because you have, like in the very first movie, you have everyone that's like drinking, partying, and they're supposed to be like these camp counselor role models. Just kind of giving that version of teens that's like the partier. For the 1990s, I'm going to do Scream, because it really brings forth how technology affects teens in the modern era. Just kind of like, oh, technology isn't really for like the rich, it's more for the moderate and middle class. So it's kind of showing how that's integrated into it. Also, this is around the time when you had both parents working instead of just one parent who would always work. So it kind of shows how the beginning of teens being without a lot of supervision, being outside of school and being at home. And the 2000s, I'm going to do Final Destination, just because it shows like the new generation of teens, because they did move into another millennia, and kind of starting into millennial, like the end of millennials and heading into Gen Z. And just kind of showing like more of the effects of like the working parent and more of the standalone independent teens. 2010, I'm going to do Unfriended, because this really brought forth technology. This really showed how horror can be brought into technology and how teens are a little bit more tech savvy and have a lot more freedom to do whatever they want online. This kind of shows the effects of bullying as well, showing that that's kind of been a progressive trope from the 1970s to now, and also brings in new tropes as we head into the future of cinema, as we are soon to enter 2020. My expected results, I expected that as of right now, that these tropes would follow social issues, that they would follow the social issues in schools like back in the 1970s. Bullying and drugs were a big one. Same thing with the 1980s. Teens had a lot more sexual freedom and had a lot more like kind of freedom with drugs and stuff like that. Although I didn't really expect these to have like real world impacts. I don't expect teens to like be actually affected by these type of tropes. Kind of what I have right now is that my first thought was right, how they were following social issues, because looking at tropes and looking at the teen social issues at that time, they align very closely with each other. And also, I did find out that, these type of tropes do have an effect on teens, how it kind of works in the result of a stereotype, where the older generation kind of looks down at the teens of this current generation and are like, well, if this social issue is true in real life and it's kind of being shown through these tropes in movies, then these teens in movies may not be far from the teens in real life. And looking at multiple psychologists' journals, kind of showing how these tropes are acting as stereotypes. So far, this is kind of my lit review. It's kind of short right now, and I'm still kind of working on it. Right now, these are two psychologists who are looking into from the 1950s to the 2010s of what kind of like the big social issues were at the time, how they affected teens growing up and going into further generations. Well, this one, it kind of shows the effects of how teens are portrayed in movies, how this kind of negatively impacts teens of the current generation. And here's my final bibliography. Right now I've used 2 movies and I have used both of those journals. Thank you.